Hello, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar on buying a car. My name is Ryan, and I'm a program manager at First Tech. I'm excited to have with me Erica Cantrell, a performance manager in our consumer lending department here at First Tech, and Chris Blades, our senior manager of national dealer sales. Erica has been with First Tech for 6 years and in the industry more than 10 years. Chris has been with First Tech for about 2 years and in the industry for more than 15. A few housekeeping items for today's session. If you experience technical difficulties using WebEx, you may contact us using the Q&A text box on the lower right-hand side of your screen or by calling WebEx technical support at 866-779-3239. As an attendee, you are part of a larger audience, and therefore, due to privacy concerns, the attendee list will not be displayed. All attendees are in listen-only mode and will remain so during the duration of today's presentation. You are encouraged to submit questions at any time. Just type into the Q&A text box and click send, and we will try to answer those as time is permitted, and all other questions will be addressed individually after the webinar by email. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, and within a week, you'll receive an email with a link to the recording in it. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Erica.
Great. Thank you, Ryan, and thank you all for joining us today. We're excited that you're here. Today, we're going to be giving you essential tips as you purchase your next vehicle. The information that we share today will be very fitting whether you're purchasing a vehicle for your first time or this is your 15th time purchasing a vehicle. We'll cover all of the tips that you need to know. Next to a home purchase, oftentimes a car purchase is going to be the second biggest purchase that you make in your life. So knowing the ins and outs of car buying is essential to your financial well-being. Let's get started with things to consider when buying a car. First and foremost is your budget. This is a very key element to consider and analyze before you go out and purchase a car. A budget is critical in knowing how much car you can afford. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you can't afford anything extra when it comes to spending because of a large car payment that you've attached yourself to. And again, like I mentioned earlier, a car purchase is a very big purchase. It's very easy to get emotionally attached to a vehicle or act on impulse when purchasing a car. You see that shiny new car and that's all you think about. So doing these things in advance, like your budgeting and all of the things that I'm going to mention next are really important to get yourself prepared. Cars, like I said, have a lot of bells and whistles. They're shiny, they're fun, they're exciting. So before you make the big purchase, consider what you really need from your vehicle versus what you want or what is a desire. So for example, a vehicle may have a nice navigation system. Really outweigh those additional options to see if you really need it, if it fits within your budget, or if it's just a want and desire. Along with your budget comes financing. Consider how much you should finance. Think about things like, will you be putting money down on this purchase, or will you be financing the entire purchase? Research is another very, very important step in the process. There's so much information that you can find online and so much information that we at First Tech can help you with as you start your research before you make your final decision. Consider add-on products that we'll talk about a little bit later, additional insurance, and many, many other options that you're going to be presented with. Again, we'll talk about these later. But also think about negotiating. As you're doing your research, find out, are you getting the right price? Are you getting the best price that fits within your budget? Do your research and be ready to negotiate to make sure that you're comfortable with the purchase that you're making. So let's talk more about budget. So understanding your budget is important. Determine how much you can afford and look at your fixed expenses versus your variable expenses and see where you can fit that car payment in. This is important to do up front in the process So that way you, again, aren't easily influenced by that shiny new car. You're ready, you're prepared, and you know what you truly can afford once you purchase the vehicle. So talking a little bit more in depth about the budget, let's talk about fixed and variable expenses. So understanding these two expenses is important. Fixed expenses are expenses like your newly added car payment or your mortgage payment or your rent payment. They're payments that are going to remain consistently the same each month. A variable expense is one that will change every month. An example of a variable expense is your utility bill. If you're like me, my utility bill is much higher in the summer versus the winter. So it's important to plan these kind of variable expenses and the impact that they have to your overall budget. Prepare for these and just add the car payment in and get ready for that next new payment that you're adding into your budget. Another tip when it comes to your budget is to keep all of your expenses, including your new car payment, below 40% of your monthly income. This is going to help you keep from spending more on a car than you can actually afford. And lastly, also avoid spending more than 20% of your monthly income on all of your transportation costs. So this is going to include the new car payment that you're going to have, as well as any monthly insurance expense, gas, and any needed maintenance on the vehicle that might come up. We recommend that you always set aside funds for unforeseen vehicle issues and always talk to a First Tech representative who can help you learn more about vehicle protection and maintenance plans and how to manage your budget.
Thanks, Erica. So now that we've talked a little bit about your budget, how much should you pay for a new vehicle that you're looking at? There's different things to consider when you're looking at a new or a used vehicle. So let's talk a little bit first about a new vehicle. You'd want to consider, firstly, the manufacturer's suggested retail price, and we'll get into a little bit more detail later on what that actually entails. Also consider things that Erica spoke about as far as warranties and incentives and things like that that can be factors in the price. And don't forget aftermarket add-ons. These would be things like that fancy lift kit you need for your new truck, a towing package, etc., things that might not necessarily be included by the manufacturer. These all affect the price of your new vehicle. There's plenty of resources out there for you to help you research your new vehicle purchase and know how much you should pay. Things like the manufacturer's website would be a great first resource for you when you're starting to do your research. Look at consumerreports.org. They have plenty of useful information that can certainly help you determine effective pricing. And other websites like kellybluebook.com, Carfax, NADA, Edmunds.com, there's a plethora of resources for you. When you're looking at used vehicles, some other consideration factors would be things like the book value. This is where kellybluebook.com would come into factor. Also, know the condition of the vehicle. That's going to certainly factor into the price of a used vehicle for you. And try to get the vehicle history. Carfax.com is a great resource to help you understand any previous issues or previous owners that the automobile may have had. And always, if it's important to you, make sure you check the U.S. Department of Transportation's website under safercar.gov. They'll list there any important safety reports that might be a factor for you as well in your purchase. So now that we've talked about your budget and how much you might want to pay for your vehicle, let's talk about how you're going to finance it. So the first thing that I would highly suggest is make sure that you know your credit rating and your financial situation regarding your budget that Erica spoke to. Your credit rating is very important. It's what's going to determine the rate that you get approved for in most situations. And when we speak of credit rating, we don't necessarily mean your credit score. Know where you fall on the credit spectrum. Is your credit very good? Is it somewhat in repair? Is there something you should be doing to improve it before you purchase your vehicle to get that best rate? And always be honest about your credit rating. I wouldn't suggest going into a dealer and attempting to mislead a dealer into thinking you have some sort of phenomenal credit when you may have some challenges. They're typically going to need to pool your credit, and they're going to find out anyway. Being honest and upfront will really help solidify the initial stages of that relationship and help to secure that both of you will have an honest and transparent transaction. Also, research the rates and terms and various fees that are out there. Make sure that you know not just your credit rating, but what are the common terms, what's the average that most consumers are paying now as far as rates or terms, to make sure that when a rate is offered to you for financing, that you know that you fall within that acceptable range, or if you maybe should continue to shop for financing. Make sure that you consider down payments and rebates into your financing as well. Oftentimes the dealers will have certain rebates that are available to you. You can research those on some of the websites we spoke of earlier. And make sure you factor in your down payment, because that's certainly going to reduce how much you'll need to finance. And lastly, I would highly suggest to get pre-approved. I think more often than not I hear from our members or customers in the car dealerships that it's typically the length of time that makes the car buying experience so poor. Doing that legwork up front with the financing will certainly save you a lot of time in the dealership. If you do decide to finance, just make sure that you get pre-approved through your financial institution. First Tech can certainly help you with that. If you so choose, you're certainly welcome to do that in the dealership, and they can help you with that as well. Ideally, with regards to financing, most of your work should be done outside of the dealership. I want to talk a second with everyone about being aware of 0% financing. This is a tactic in the auto buying world that can sometimes be misleading, and it sometimes can cost you more. So I have an example for you here that you can see, a very simple example. So you can see here on a $25,000 auto loan, you can qualify for sometimes a manufacturer's rebate. That's going to obviously lower the financing amount, and there's the APR for this example at 2.55%. With a loan term of 48 months or 4 years, you're looking at a payment of about $461 a month roughly. Versus a 0% offer, which typically does not qualify you for a manufacturer's rebate. It's usually one or the other. Not typically do dealers offer both. So you can see in this example then, at just a 4-year term, which most consumers these days are pushing 6 or even 7 years on a term, that this is already about a $20 increase in a monthly payment. So if monthly payment is something that's important to you, I would encourage you to look at the options with regards to financing before you're misled into a 0% offer that might actually cost you more.
Thank you, Chris. So let's talk a little bit about new versus used versus leased vehicles. So as you're getting ready to make your purchase and you're doing your research, you're going to be faced with making a decision on whether you want a new vehicle, a used vehicle, or if you want to lease a vehicle. So there are pros and cons to each one of these. And so let's talk a little bit about them. A new vehicle is brand new from the factory without any previous owners. So a new vehicle will have reduced maintenance because it hasn't been driven before. Nobody's ever owned it. The only mileage that it might have on the vehicle is due to test drive, if it has any at all. It will come with a warranty from the manufacturer. And when you purchase new, again, you know the history of the vehicle, so you can make that purchase with confidence. However, some of the cons that come with a new vehicle are that they typically have a higher purchase price, which means a higher monthly payment for you. Also, new vehicles typically will depreciate in value much quicker than an used vehicle. An used vehicle is going to give you an increased choice of options. There are also used vehicles that are certified pre-owned. So what certified pre-owned means is that a manufacturer has specific conditions that they've set and inspections on a vehicle to certify it as pre-owned. So if it meets all of those requirements, then they certify it as a pre-owned vehicle. That can give you a little bit more peace of mind if you're considering an used vehicle. Often you can also find an used vehicle at a lower purchase price than new. They also come with lower insurance premiums, and there's also additional financing and purchasing options that include purchasing not only from a dealership, but maybe even a private party, and we'll talk about what that means in a moment. Some cons to an used vehicle is that they can sometimes come with more wear and tear, again, since they've been owned before and somebody has driven the vehicle before. So there might be a higher potential for repairs. A leased vehicle is basically when you rent a vehicle for a specific amount of time. Often leased vehicles are great for lower payments, and often the vehicles will come with all of the bells and whistles and all of the upgrades that you'd want on the vehicle. The disadvantage of a lease is that you don't actually own the vehicle. You're also constrained with a mileage cap on how many miles you can put on the vehicle during the time that you're leasing it. And usually a down payment is going to be required when you take out that lease. With the mileage cap, if you go over any of the cap on the mileage that's set when you take that lease agreement out, you can be charged when you turn that vehicle in per mile that you've gone over. So this can be a really unexpected cost that comes up at the end of your lease agreement that can cost you a lot of money. Alrighty, so just like knowing whether you want to purchase a new, used, or leasing a vehicle, it's important to know where you want to buy a vehicle. All three of these are great options, and they're really, making your decision is by understanding each of the options and knowing what's important to you and what you want to experience during your purchase process. So one option is purchasing a vehicle from the dealership. This is probably most common, most known. Dealership purchases can give you confidence with reputable dealers. You can have access to First Tech financing. You can purchase a new vehicle. You can purchase an used vehicle. You can even lease vehicles from a dealership. And again, we have a trusted network of dealer partners that we work with. So should you find a dealership who's not on this network, no problem. First Tech can still help you finance your vehicle purchase if you'd like to buy from a dealer. Private party purchases are where you purchase a vehicle from another individual. Private party purchases are great if you're looking, again, for an used vehicle at a lower purchase price. When you're purchasing from another individual or a private party, there's not a lot of overhead costs, so the price can be a little bit lower than you might find elsewhere. First Tech can offer you assistance in financing if you're purchasing through a private party, and also offer you assistance to transfer the ownership of the vehicle. We also offer gap and extended warranty options when purchasing private party as well. Lastly is a concierge experience. This is another buying option where a company will help you find a vehicle that you're looking for. They give you access to all makes and models through a dealer network that they're on. You can identify the vehicle you want to purchase, and that concierge service will find it and deliver it to you. First Tech has great partners, again, that you could work, if you want to go the concierge route, that we have great partners that you could work with. An example of one of our partners is Autoland. So each of these options has many benefits to them. Again, it's about the experience you want when you're buying your next car. First Tech can connect you with a network of trusted dealerships, quality private party seller experiences, or concierge lending services. So just identify the experience you want, and First Tech's here to help. Alrighty, so let's talk about some shopping tips. Some of these are more closely related to if you were shopping at a dealership. So once you're ready to go and shop for your vehicle, it's important to keep many of these tips in mind, whether it's before the shopping trip or while you're there shopping. So again, I mentioned earlier, knowing your budget is really, really important. Know how much you can afford, know how much you want to finance ahead of time, so that way you're not easily influenced or pressured when you get to a dealership or when you're ready to make that purchase. And you don't lose sight of your budget, which is the most important piece of this. As Chris mentioned, getting pre-approved is very important. It'll really help the experience if you're going into a dealership, or really if you're purchasing from any of the options that we just talked about. Know what to look for in ads, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. We'll help you understand what to look for if you are looking at ads as you're doing research for your next purchase. If you have a vehicle that you're trading in, Understand how much that vehicle is worth. Know what position you are with that trade-in in advance. Know if you might have negative equity up front will help with your shopping experience as well. And then decide on a make, model, color, and any other options that you need ahead of time. That way your emotions and, again, that shiny new car don't get ahead of you and you lose sight of what you actually need and can afford. First Tech has some wonderful auto finance calculators out there to help you also be more prepared and do your research. So feel free to visit our website and check those calculators out and really help you through your research process. You can also speak to one of our representatives at our branches or in our contact center who can help you throughout the entire process. Also inquire about your gap in warranty and any other additional options that we'll talk about a little bit later. While you're shopping, check out online pricing. See, again, going back to the tips that we spoke about earlier, negotiating and really understanding and knowing the price that you're paying for the vehicle is important. There's so much information, again, that you can find online before you make that final purchase. Take a friend with you. Buying a car can be a little stressful. You don't want to be pressured into something that you don't want to move forward with. So take a friend who can really help pull you out of any situation where you may be acting more with emotions versus thinking of exactly what you want to purchase. Focus on, again, the vehicle that you want. Keep in mind the things that you identified during your research and what you really want and what you really need as you're searching. It's easy to get caught up in all of those extra fancy things that are out there today, but keep in mind your budget. While you're shopping, bring the records and research that you've done, so that way if you need to refer to them, you can. Bring some of the calculators from our website that you've done, so that way if on the side you just need to take a look to keep your budget in check, you can absolutely do so. And again, most importantly, be firm about that budget. Be committed, do your own math, and remain committed to that budget.
Thanks, Erica. I just want to talk some more about the research and marketing that you're going to come across. So here we have an advertising for you that you may come across as you're beginning to shop for your vehicle. So I want to point out to you a couple of the aspects that you're going to see. Foremost, you're going to see a lot of numbers. That's typically a dealer's first approach. And you can see here that typically the larger items are going to be your payment or the percentage rate. And in my opinion, in this day and age, we should be a very payment-driven society, but we tend to focus on rate. I want to point out that rates are usually not negotiable. The rate is usually the rate that you qualify for. Try to focus on the payments if you can. That's usually a negotiable item. So if you look here, also make sure that when you're looking at different advertisings or marketing materials that you're looking at the fine print. So you can see here under the 0% financing offer, like I alluded to earlier, it's in lieu of a factory rebate. So you don't actually qualify for both. It also states in there that it's on approved credit. And at the very bottom, you'll see a lot of fine print that has a lot of terms and conditions that you'd have to qualify for those. In some of these advertisings, you also see things like a limited number available. So you see the Tucson at the top there at $199 a month. Keep in mind that they may only have 3 or 4 of these vehicles on the lot. So again, to what Erica was saying, make sure you bring your materials with you so that you're fully armed in that conversation. I would highly suggest that when you're shopping for a vehicle too, if you can and it's within your desire, try to look for a car that's maybe 1 model year older. You can usually find very good deals on vehicles that are still brand new, just 1 model year old. Take a look at the options and pricings here. So what you'll see when you typically encounter a new vehicle is what they call a window sticker. I want to point out to you here the MSRP. So we spoke briefly about that earlier. I want to stress that the MSRP is not typically the price of the vehicle. So MSRP stands for manufacturer's suggested retail price. This is usually always negotiable. So when you're looking at a window sticker and you see on item 7 their total MSRP, I would highly suggest that that's the area where you focus to negotiate on as far as the overall price of your vehicle. Remember that dealers are not obligated to provide to you their invoice, what they've paid for the vehicle. And keep in mind that a dealership is a business. They do look to make a profit. It's your research up front and adhering to your budget that's going to ensure that you get the best deal possible within your budget. So try to make sure that you do that research up front, negotiate the MSRP pricing, and make sure that it's within everything that fits within your budget. When we talk about negotiating, what you're trying to do is obviously leverage the best price for you. Focus on the purchase price. Like I said, the MSRP would be a good starting point. Give the dealer an accurate portrayal of your budget. We've spent a lot of time talking about your budget. You've done a lot of research up front to make sure that you can afford the car that you're looking at. Make sure you convey that to the dealer. I wouldn't suggest going into a car dealership or any purchase and saying anything misleading with regards to your budget. If you've budgeted $400 a month for your payment, then stick with that and give that to the dealer as your budget, and make sure they stay within that budget that you've identified. Make sure that you understand the structure of the vehicle. Don't just discuss the payment. Payment should be a big factor, but also make sure that you're paying attention to the price, the term, the rate, the down payment. All the other factors that go into that payment should be something that you're paying attention to. Make sure that you discuss your trade-in as a separate item. I think there's a practice nowadays and a convention to inform a dealership that either you don't have a trade-in or you're not looking to trade in a vehicle, and then to attempt to bring that in later. Make sure that you identify that up front, that you do have a vehicle if you're seeking to trade one in, but let the dealership know that you're interested in negotiating that trade-in separately. Come to terms with the purchase price of the vehicle you're looking to buy, and then agree on that, and then focus on the trade-in. Don't be misleading. And make sure you get everything in writing. There's no such thing as a verbal agreement. You're entering into a written contract with the dealership. Things like, we'll throw in free car mats for you, or your first 4 oil changes will be free. Those should be in writing. It's typically known as a due bill, and that's something that you should also be signing for or negotiating if that's important to you. So make sure in the end that everything that you've agreed on when you've finished negotiating is in writing. Make sure that you also explore different options as far as warranties and maintenance, etc. Just keep in mind that pricing and coverage may vary on those. So just because you see a price on one that may be better than another option for a warranty, for example, doesn't necessarily mean you're getting the same thing at a better price. So make sure you explore those in some detail as well. A couple of tips and tricks that I'd like to offer you guys. Of course, I think Erica and I have spent a lot of time making sure that we address with you that you should be doing plenty of homework. I would never suggest that you enter into something as big as a car purchase on a whim. Know the facts about the vehicles that you're looking at, the pricing, financing, etc. Coming in armed with information into a negotiation situation such as this will really make sure that you get the best deal possible. Stick to your preferences. Don't settle for something you don't want. Erica spoke of navigation system. If that's something that is important to you and you have to have it, then don't settle for something that doesn't include that. Make sure that you get what you are looking for. Remember that everything is negotiable at a dealership. There's different options that you might explore: sales price, warranties, maintenance packages, etc. All of these prices can typically be adjusted. So make sure that you work with the dealership on that and attempt to negotiate a better price that fits within your budget. And lastly, make sure that you go over all the details. Be confident in what you're signing, or don't sign anything. If you have questions or you feel that the transaction has gone too fast and you need time to think about it, then my suggestion would be to walk away and take that time to think about it. Make sure that you don't rush through the experience as well. Make sure that you understand that the dealers are in the same situation as you, and they really want you to have a positive experience and to not feel that you've been wasting your time at a dealership for too long. So take your time to get through the transaction at your own pace. And lastly, I would just suggest that you take the time to shop at a couple of dealerships. 2 to 3 would probably suffice, just to make sure that you're comparing out there to make sure that among the dealers you're getting the best pricing possible. To spend just a quick moment talking about a used vehicle, a little bit different approach, just make sure, in my opinion, that you take the time to have that independently certified. A lot of the times, whether at a dealership or a private party, you'll see that some sort of an inspection has been done. Erica spoke about certified pre-owns. Those can usually be relied upon, but make sure that if you don't feel comfortable in the certification that was provided, that you take that time. It's well within your right to ask for your own private inspection. Ask for maintenance records as well, not just a Carfax report. Ask for the maintenance records, especially for a private party purchase. You want to be confident that that vehicle is well maintained. And always, always, always go for a test drive in a used vehicle. Make sure that you're comfortable with how that car drives, listening for any specific sounds or different things that might not sound normal to you. You would take this time to do that for a new vehicle. Make sure that's part of your experience in purchasing a used vehicle as well. My final tip here for used car purchase, if you are engaging in a private party purchase, everything should always be in writing. For any car purchase, especially for a private party sale, and I would highly suggest it even if it's a purchase between a relative or a friend or anybody that you know well, it's still very important. This is a very important transaction, and you should make sure that everything is well documented.
Great, thank you, Chris. So once you're ready to make the purchase, let's talk about the different costs associated with the purchase and help you understand those a little bit better. The first is going to be the purchase price. This is pretty self-explanatory. This is going to be the cost of the vehicle that you're purchasing, and if you're at a dealership, this is going to be what you negotiate with the salesperson. Next are any additional options that you're adding. Additional options can include extended warranty, they can include GAP, credit, life and disability insurance, roadside assistance, maintenance packages, and even some others. These are going to be negotiated with a finance representative if you're purchasing at a dealer. When it comes to these additional options that you're going to be presented with, be sure to really understand each of them, understand the coverage of each of them, and also understand that these are optional. You don't need to purchase any of these additional options in order to secure financing. Now, there are many benefits to each of them, but again, don't let the dealership or anybody pressure you into something that you don't need. Weigh your options, ask a First Tech rep to help, and really understand and identify the additional options that will benefit you most versus what you might be sold. Also, depending on your state of residence, you could have additional expenses for sales tax and title fees, so keep that in mind as you're thinking about your total amount of the purchase. So all of these expenses combined is going to be your total amount, and if you're financing, this will be what you finance unless you have cash that you're putting down on the deal. So again, just weigh your options, ask a First Tech rep to help you understand and identify any additional options that are going to benefit you, and really, as we keep stressing, make sure that this total amount is within your budget and what you're comfortable with. So once you have agreed on a purchase price in a vehicle, you're going to be presented with a contract. And there's a piece of the contract that's really important for you to understand. This will be presented at the financing stage of the purchase experience. And there's different sections of this overall section called the Truth in Lending Disclosures. So let's go over what each of those means so that way you have a better understanding of the entire commitment that you're making when you're signing a contract. The first is an annual percentage rate. This is going to be the cost of your credit at a yearly rate. This is often referred to, again, as your rate. The finance charge This is going to be the dollar amount that the credit cost you. So how much are you going to be paying to have a loan? The amount financed. This is going to be the amount of credit provided to you on your behalf. The total number of payments will be the amount you have paid after you have made all of the payments as scheduled. This is going to include any interest as well if you're financing. And then the total sales price. This is going to be the total cost of your purchase on your credit, including your down payment if you are making one. So again, understand each of these sections, review them before you sign the actual contract. Make sure that they're accurate. If you agree to something with the dealership, make sure that it's reflected in these sections here. All right, so once you've found your vehicle and you're ready to finalize your purchase, there are going to be documents that will typically be required during the transaction. So I already spoke a little bit to the sales contract. This is going to be a contract that will outline the sale between you and the dealership or person, if you're purchasing private party, that you're buying from. It will list things that we just went over, but it's also going to list things like the vehicle, your name, the purchase price, the total amount due for the purchase, and any additional options that you purchase. Again, this is your contract and your agreement to purchase this vehicle. So make sure that you really understand everything that's listed in this contract. The purchase order is a document that's going to be similar to the sales contract. It's going to outline agreed upon prices and the vehicle that you're purchasing as well. Next is an odometer statement. The odometer statement you're going to have to sign, and what it lists is the actual mileage of the vehicle that you're purchasing. So even if you're purchasing a brand new vehicle and there are 0 miles or maybe only 2 miles, you should still have an odometer statement that you're going to sign and agree to the mileage on the vehicle. The title application is another document. This is going to display who's going to be the registered owner on the vehicle. So again, just like any of these other documents, it's important to review and look at this document and make sure that you understand who's listed on the title application, especially when it comes to getting ready for insurance. You're going to make sure that you want to have that application correct, because that's what they're going to send off to the DMV to transfer the vehicle into your name. Next is a credit application. A credit application is going to be an application to run your credit for the transaction. If you're purchasing from a dealership, they're always going to want you to sign a credit application. They want to ensure that you're going to be able to finance this vehicle before they let you drive away with it. Proof of insurance is also something that will be requested. This is to show that you're actually insurable once you take possession of the vehicle. So a dealership would ask for this, and even First Tech would ask for this if you're financing with First Tech. A copy of your driver's license will also typically be requested. And so it'll be requested typically by the dealership. So those are the documents that you will need to sign or provide. There are additional documents that you might or may need to sign or provide, so we'll make you a little more familiar with those as well. The first one is a payoff for your trade-in. So if you have a trade-in or a vehicle that you're trading in, you may need to sign paperwork agreeing on that transaction and the amount of money that they're giving you for that trade-in. Next is warranty paperwork. So if you choose to purchase a warranty or really purchase any of the additional options that we spoke about, you're going to have to sign additional documents agreeing to that purchase. It's important, again, to review those documents so that way you truly understand what warranty package or whatever the package may be, understand the limits around that package that you're getting. So it's good to read the entire document before you sign. A membership application. So if you're joining a credit union that you're not a member of yet, then you will typically have to sign a membership application. And this will be usually if you are at the dealership and they are helping you with financing. If you are financing through First Tech and you get pre-approved and you are already a member, this isn't something that you will have to worry about. Lastly is the power of attorney. This power of attorney is a limited power of attorney just for DMV and title paperwork. So don't be alarmed when you are asked to sign it, but just know that it is for DMV and title paperwork, so that way either the dealership or First Tech, depending on the transaction, can help you transfer that new vehicle into your name. All right, so let's talk about some final tips. So Chris and I have gone over a lot of different tips that you'll experience as you're purchasing a car. We've talked a lot about budget, research, and what kind of experience you'll have at a dealership, or if you're choosing to purchase from a private party or a concierge service. So here are some final tips to wrap us up today. Walk away if you feel pressured or just need time to think. We spoke about this a couple of times today. Buying a car is a big purchase. Don't feel that you have to make a decision that you're not completely comfortable with. It's perfectly okay to walk away from the transaction if you're feeling pressured or if you just need additional time to think. Don't sign anything until you're ready to purchase. We spoke about that contract. As soon as you sign that contract, you're agreeing to purchase that vehicle. So don't sign it until you are ready and you understand everything that's outlined in the contract. Chris spoke to this earlier. Get all verbal agreements in writing before you leave. Make sure that you have them all documented. Chris spoke to what a due bill is. That way, when you walk away and if you come back, you know any agreements that were made, you have proof. If you don't have it in writing, then it may have never existed. And use your knowledge to your advantage. Again, we talked a lot about doing research. There's so much research that you can find online. And again, I talked about some calculators on the First Tech website that will help you with your research. There is a wealth of knowledge out there. So use the knowledge that you gained to your advantage. Don't let any pressure take away from the knowledge that you know you have when you're making this purchase. And know that First Tech, we're here to help, so please contact us if you have any questions throughout your entire purchase process. We're here for you.
All right, good stuff. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Chris. We did have some questions come through from attendees, so we can jump right into those. In the meantime, for our attendees on the line, if you have additional questions you haven't asked yet, feel free to type those in to us, and we will try to get to them. This first one, do used vehicles at dealerships have stickers like the one you showed us? If not, do they have anything similar? Erica, can you take this one?
Absolutely, Ryan. Yes. So the picture that Chris showed you, those come with new vehicles. So you aren't going to find that same exact sticker on an used vehicle. As Chris spoke to, when you are purchasing an used vehicle, he outlined important inspections and things to get to make sure that you're comfortable with the vehicle that you're purchasing. And also, ask the dealership for what they may call a book sheet or something that's going to explain the breakdown of what options are listed on the vehicle. So you're not going to see the same sticker, but don't be afraid to ask for additional information.
Great, thanks, Erica. And this attendee asked, or said, you mentioned get everything in writing when negotiating with the dealer. Does email count? Chris, do you want to take this one?
You know, that's a great question. So yes and no. I think it depends on what it is that the nature of the email is. You know, I'm not here to offer any legal advice, of course, but the nature of the contract is written out. If you're discussing things such as, you know, that I mentioned with free floor mats or an oil change or something like that, that could probably suffice. When it comes to the nature of the actual contract, I would err on the side of caution and say absolutely not. Make sure that those are all signed in person in writing.
Great, thank you. And this person asked, if I want to get an auto loan with First Tech, but I'm at a dealer and never got pre-approved, what do I say?
That's a great question. So Erica mentioned a few times, so we do have a national network of dealers available to our members or to get in contact with First Tech. What I would suggest is to If you haven't been pre-approved, just mention to the dealership that you are a member of First Tech and you'd like to do your financing with First Tech, and they can certainly help you. If for some reason they're not within our network, I would suggest that you then either contact the contact center to help you apply for a loan, or if you're near one of our local branches, to stop in there.
Okay, great. We had a question asking, what is GAP, G-A-P?
GAP, that's another great question. So it's, in my opinion, this is my personal view of it, it's a great product. GAP stands for Guaranteed Asset Protection. It is similar to an insurance product, and like I mentioned before, coverages and pricing varies on that. So what I would caution anyone on is the common nomenclature is that it'll pay off your car loan for you. It's not always the case. There are certain terms and conditions that have to be met with each GAP policy. So make sure that you're looking through before you just blindly accept the dealership's offer or any other GAP offer. Read through the terms and conditions of that. Sometimes it's a maximum amount that can be applied. Sometimes there's a deductible, your insurance deductible, different factors that will vary in. So don't just assume that it will pay off the vehicle, but that is the intent of it, is in the event that there is a total loss on your vehicle, the intent is to help you essentially cover the gap, if you will, between what you still owe on the vehicle in order to have it paid in full.
Perfect. And we got a question about gross or net monthly income in relation to the budget considerations earlier. We were talking about your take-home or your net monthly income. So that's usually how you want to budget. All that money going to Uncle Sam, it's best not to count that. Thanks for the question. And here's one for you, Erica. We had a question about, can a concierge be used for purchasing used vehicles?
Yeah, great question. And yes, there are concierge services out there that can be used to purchase used vehicles as well.
Perfect. And this attendee mentioned that, or I guess we mentioned that MSRP is sometimes meaningless, or it's suggested, right? So invoice is better to negotiate on. Where can someone, you said invoice is not, a dealer doesn't have to show you what invoice is. Is there some way to obtain that information?
That's a great question. This is definitely the most powerful tool in your arsenal when you're looking to negotiate. To be clear, MSRP is an important starting point. It's what the manufacturer sets as what they believe that vehicle should sell for. There are certain tools out there that should help you get an indication, but as any market conditions can tell you, this is still a dealership buying a product, and that product just happens to be a car. So it's really hard to get an exact figure, and there's always incentives provided to the dealership as well from the manufacturer that will affect their invoice price. Now, sometimes you can negotiate with those if you can uncover those incentives. I would really point you, if you're trying to uncover that difference between an invoice price and the MSRP on a vehicle that you're looking to purchase, would be probably to go to Edmunds.com or one of the other online tools. They tend to aggregate data and bring together the most common occurrences so that you can try to find the best possible pricing in there. But MSRP is a valuable starting point. I wouldn't discount it.
Thanks, Chris. And how long does a pre-approval offer typically last?
So for First Tech's purposes, we typically honor our pre-approvals for 30 days. So from the date that you apply, we'll honor the terms and conditions of that for 30 days.
Okay. And if you're pre-approved, do you have to worry about financing at a dealer?
No. So if you are pre-approved, so for instance, if you choose to come to First Tech, and we hope you do, for your financing, if you approach the dealership, and oftentimes you'll find an even more positive experience by letting them know that you are pre-approved, through your lender. I would suggest to keep in mind that your typical car dealer is going to be of the interest of trying to get you the best possible rates and terms. Now, I understand that there's different credit factors involved. Some people choose to not have their credit pulled multiple times, and that's well within your right. Just let your dealership know that. Going to what Erica spoke of, there are certain forms that you do have to sign at a dealership, even if you are pre-approved. So just keep that in mind. You know, if you're not looking to have your credit run, that's perfectly fine, but you still might have to fill out a credit application. There's certain regulatory requirements that dealerships are required to adhere to.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. So we are actually out of time for the day. There are a couple questions we didn't get to, so we'll follow up with you via email. Remember, we're sending everyone a follow-up email with a link to the recording in it. And we'll also have a short survey that pops up as you exit. Please take a moment to complete that, and if you would like to speak with a First Tech representative, just indicate so within that survey, and we'll make sure that someone reaches out to you in the next couple of days. Thanks again to Chris and Erica, our presenters, and to you for joining. And we invite you to join us on August 9th at 11 a.m. Pacific for our webinar on financial frauds. Thank you, and have a great day.